Hey everyone! Recently I got asked about the position of the forearms in your forearm stand or Pincha Mayurasana, and I thought I might jump in here quickly and tell you my opinion. If you want to try these things with me, it's good if you have two blocks, or you might use a sofa that is a little bit lower, or something where you can put your elbows onto and have a certain elevation. First thing first is the anatomical basis of how muscles work. Some muscles in your body has this ability to do the two things at once. For example, the hamstrings, they can bend the knee and at the same time they can open the hips. It's because they go through two joints. So they go through the knee joint, but also they go through the hip joint. So they attach somewhere on the lower part of your leg and they go through your thigh, and then they attach also at your hips somewhere, I don't know where. However, although this ability is amazing that they can do two things, they can only do one thing properly. So if you have, for example, your knee already bent, or your hamstrings are already working pretty hard on bending the knee, they will not be able to work on opening the hips. They will just do it like for 5% or something like that, and you have to need and use other muscles to do that, which is great because you have your glutes and they will do that. And the same applies for your shoulders. Shoulder is the most, in my opinion, complicated joint in your body, and you are using your shoulders in your forearm stand to push out. And there are muscles that have the ability to do this kind of pushing the elbows, pushing the forearms out, away from the shoulder joint, away from your scapula, your shoulder blade. And these muscles are also, or some of them are also responsible for an external rotation of your arm. So if your muscles are already working hard on that external rotation, so if your arms are externally rotated, they will have really hard time to help the accessory muscles to also push out. To test this in your shoulders, we are going to use blocks, or you can use something that is a little bit elevated to put your elbows on. Make sure that the distance in between your elbows is a little bit, maybe even less than your shoulders, because you are training and you are going for the position that you will have in your shoulders, in your arms, the same as in your forearm stand, in your pincha. And it's better to have the elbows as wide as your shoulders to have stability. You would not put anything on a table that has like legs that go to the sides. It's just pure physics. You don't want to have wider base. You want to have the base as wide as the thing that you are holding on it. And external rotation means going externally with your arm, like this, right? However, if you have your hands over the head, it's still external, so your fingers go out. It's a little bit confusing when you have your arms straight, where the external rotation means going internally with the upper arm. So your triceps, they go towards each other, and that's external, but your fingers still go out. You will put your elbows onto this box and you will walk away with your knees once you have the elbows there. Walking. Your palms can be together and you walk as far as you get a straight line in between your upper arms and your upper body. This is basically the position where you are in pincha and you don't want to collapse in your chest. You want to keep your belly and your low ribs in to have stability in your spine, to be able to balance a little bit easier. And your head can be hanging. And this is also a nice stretch for your shoulders. So they're opening up. And what we are going to try now is to rotate the arms externally. So your fingers, they want to open. And this is extremely hard because those muscles that are working on opening those shoulders to go straight up, they also work on that external rotation. which means in order to open your fingers and your palms away from each other, you probably need to lift a little bit in order to bring the palms away. And it's a little of a kind of mind blow when you try that for the first time. Just for you to see what's happening in between my palms, I will put my blocks like this. So elbows onto the blocks, I walk away. So you bring your ribs in, and then you try to open the shoulders all the way, and then you try to open the palms. If it doesn't work, you have to lift a little bit with your shoulders in order to open the palms away. And then try to open the shoulders again once your palms are away from each other. It's super hard. So the muscles, they just don't cooperate with your mind. And this is why I am always teaching Pincha with palms together. Since if you keep that tiny bit of internal rotation in your arms, in your shoulders, it's much easier for you to control that pushing out of the shoulders motion. So this is the opposite as the test with the blocks. In the blocks, we already were pushing out from the shoulders, and what we wanted to do is to bring the external rotation out. And now we will not have the external rotation, and that will help us to push more out from the shoulders in your Pincha. If you start and if you learn Pincha with your forearms parallel to each other, what will happen is that the moment you try to push out, because your arms are already really externally rotated, you will try to push out, but it will not help you, it will not allow you to go for that, and your elbows will splay to the sides, going for an internal rotation, to allow the muscles to be able to push a little bit more. But then, once your elbows slide away, you are going into an unstable position in your upper arms, and you will also get closer towards the ground, because when they splay out, it's creating a triangle in between the ground. If you imagine a straight line going from your shoulder, if your elbow is out, then you're closer to the ground. Then when your elbow is right under, you're much further away from the ground, and you don't have to, you just rely on the stability, and you don't have to be doing anything else. Of course, you want to keep some kind of action of squeezing the arms in towards each other, because this helps you also with the stability. And this is much harder when your elbows are wider. And it's also much harder if your palms are flat. However, if you bring your palms together, and even if you interlace the fingers, this makes you to be aware of how you are supposed to squeeze the elbows in. So the position of the palms like this helps you to squeeze the arms, keep that stability, and not allowing your elbows to splay to the sides. They will still try to do that, to go to the sides, but if you have the palms together, you are better at squeezing them towards each other. And as far as the position, the exact position of the fingers, I like to have my pinky finger, so the one on the bottom, tucked under, just so it's not being squished with the upper hand. And I like to have my thumbs together, because I learned Pincha by pressing away from a headstand. It's not the typical headstand, it's a supported headstand with my head being on my palms. And I learned it with the sofa. I want to say that this is not something that must work for you, so maybe you will find some kind of different way. Maybe your shoulders are super open and it's easy for you to keep that external rotation and still be able to push out and to jump into the Pincha right away without going through headstand. And you just have to try all the possibilities, in my opinion, to find which works for you. So fingers interlaced, palms together, the pinky finger tucked, and the two thumbs are working as the platform. You put your palms down, and I like to use sofa for this one, especially because I don't have a big back bend. My shoulders and my upper back are not that open, also my hips. and the sofa will help me to fall back into a forearm wheel a little bit easier. The elbows must come a little bit maybe closer than the shoulders, because you have this kind of skin on top of the elbows that will make your bones slide on top of it. And by bringing the elbows a little bit closer, if you push out and your elbows have a tendency to push to the sides, you will still end up right underneath your shoulders. Then you can bring the top of the head on your palms. You lift your knees, and this is a variation of a dolphin. If you would lift your head, you are in a dolphin pose, in a dolphin variation. And just doing an exercise here by allowing the head to come to your palms and then pressing up is a great way to build that strength and body awareness to press up. You can do this also at the wall with your legs up at the wall and learning how to press. So first we will go and put one leg up, and you can have the head on your thumbs or maybe even on your wrists. But the higher you go with your head now, the less you need to push up. If you can, to press into a headstand from here, that's amazing. And the next part is to push from your forearms and lift your head. And if you fall back, that's great. That means that your shoulders are naturally making you fall back. So they are closing as you push out, and that's what usually happens in this position. And if you go too far, you are safe because you have the sofa behind you. You should always try both legs. So if you have a tendency to use one leg to jump up or to press up, try to do also the other leg. So I will do the other foot now, pressing up. There was a little bit of momentum. And then I press my head away. You can look down to have a reference. And then maybe keeping the legs in this kind of position wide helps you to have the power to find the balance, right? So not going with the legs straight up right away will help you to balance back and forth. And even having one knee at your chest, it's the best in my opinion, because that helps your core to engage. I can show that one. So one leg up, and then the next leg just bends in the knee, and this kind of thing helps you to engage from your core. Then you push up, maybe you look down to have a reference, and if you start falling back, it's just the sofa there. One other thing that you can do is to learn how to come back from sofa. This is how I started, and how I gained awareness of where my body is in the inversion, because inversion is a new thing for you. So you don't know where your legs are, you don't know where your core is, and by going into that inversion as often as possible will help you to be more aware. So you can go fairly close to the sofa, and you have to walk like little spiders with your fingers underneath your head. Make sure that there is no hair underneath your elbows. That's pretty dangerous. And then you can place the palms together, maybe even interlacing the fingers. For this one, you might not need that kind of pushing away action. So you can keep your palms just together with your fingers straight. You lift one leg and you have to shift your weight forward as much as possible. The higher your sofa is, the easier it will be. And you learn how to use that one leg here. So by leaning and pushing, you eventually bring enough weight forward to bring yourself up into that forearm stand. And make sure that you have a really good forearm wheel and open front body to do really good back bends before you try to do this without the sofa, because if you have your palms like this and you end up going all the way back and falling behind into the wheel, and the palms are actually away from the ground, so they're in a bigger shape, your head and especially your neck will end up falling on top of the palms. So this might be a little bit dangerous for this kind of position of your arms. Or if you tend to go into a fold and roll from your pincha, again, this is the worst thing that you can have. So before you learn and you try to do pincha without a wall, without a sofa, without having the flexibility and ability to push out from your arms before you fall, then you have to learn how to go from here into flat palms position. And the flat palms, they can be together, they don't have to be too far away. And you have to know your body, you really have to know that, okay, yes, I'm good at finding a little bit of hang time in my pincha to make the palms flat and roll away or fall into the forearm wheel. If you want to learn how to roll from your pincha, I suggest to use a lot of pillows underneath, placing them onto your mat, even having a little bit bigger mat, and just rolling on it. So the palms are flat, you tuck your head, you tuck your chin in, you bring your hips super high. Some hairstyles don't really work for this kind of fall, so make sure to remove anything in your hair or on your back to be able to fall like this. So you can see that my elbows, they actually bend all the way, and that means that you are collapsing. And do it several times, trying to push away from the shoulders, taking the head, hips super high, and then controllably in control, rolling out. If you are good at this, if you are good at your pincha, then you can try to come into your pincha. And once you're going to fall, you have to make your palms flat. Roll the legs, tuck the chin, and roll from it. This is a lot of control. If you have strong arms, maybe it's easier for you. The other variation is when your legs start to fall behind you, and again you have to have the ability to make your palms flat if you have your palms like this. Also, having a good back bend warm-up before you attempt to do this. So now I lift it from my palms, and having the palms flat helps me if I fall and my elbows bend and I collapse. I will show it to you from the side just so you see how I'm collapsing. You can use also an elevated something in order to be better at kicking up into pincha. Makes that kick up a little bit easier, and even with control. So once you start falling back, palms flat, you bring the chin to your chest, you push from your shoulders, you find the wall, and maybe you collapse in your elbows. If you have really good flexibility, maybe you will survive that fall even without. So I eventually learned it with my palms like this, and I don't collapse. But I definitely had some falls where my neck landed on those palms like this, and it was not a nice experience, but I survived. Okay, thank you for trying this out with me if you did, and I hope it helped you. Write me in the comments if you have any more questions. Of course, I will always try to answer them. If you want, you can like this video, that will help me a lot, and I will see you in the next one. Bye! Why I'm so awkward in saying bye like a robot. Guys, don't fight. Hey, don't fight. Can you not fight right now? Don't